So the title of my paper is today From the Guardians of the Tomb to the Attendants of the Graves, the Khadims at Taj Mahal and the Fall of a Post. So largely my research deals with the making of guiding as a recognized profession at the centrally protected monuments of India. But today I am going to present a paper on the Khadims of Taj Mahal, a hereditary post created by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, and how the post observed a trajectory of gradual decline through the colonial and the post-colonial period. So the paper will largely revolve around three themes. First, I'll discuss the evolution of the post of Khadims and the curtailing of their historical rights by the colonial and the post-colonial state. Secondly, Khadims have always imagined themselves as the narrators of the history of the monuments of Taj Mahal. There are Khadims are prevalent in many Islamic monuments in India, but I will particularly focus on the Khadims at Taj Mahal. So yeah, but I'll in the second theme we'll throw lights into how Khadims frequently fail into fights with the official guides of Taj Mahal. And thirdly, I'll ruminate on how Khadims invented various means of reclaiming their significance and put up resistance for getting back their customary rights over the monument. So I'll start. The system of licensing the guides or creating the category of the official guides at the Indian monuments began in 1924. The year the Archaeological Survey of India or ASI took over the control of Agra Fort from the colonial military department and licensed the existing guides of that monument. Following that incident, the ASI took up the project of correcting the factually erroneous narratives of the guides, their tendency of myth-making, thus disciplining them with a state-sanctioned pedagogic imperative. The successive years witnessed an intricate and lengthy struggle of the government to weed out the unofficial or illegal guides from the monument premises. After the independence in 1947, the effort of systematizing the rules and regulations of guiding resulted in further jeopardizing the hereditary posts of Khadim at Taj Mahal, who had a prolonged history of representing the monument through the tradition of storytelling. Can I get the water, please? Khadims were authorized inside the premises of Taj Mahal way before the existence of the so-called approved guides, but they were not permitted to act as guides. On the question of accompanying the visitors, they were subjected to frequent clashes with the guides at the premises of Taj Mahal. Khadims held a permanent official post that were even sanctioned by the colonial government, but their roles in the monument had marked a long trajectory of revision and alteration, mostly by the administrative intervention. At the beginning of the British rule, as explained by H.R. Neville, the collector of Agra in 1926, Khadims were allowed to carry out the purpose of guarding the building, keeping the premise of Taj clean. Here it is important to point out, which Neville also reiterated, that earlier in 19th century, attending visitors was considered to be a part of their job position. In fact, at that time, they did not have any fixed salary. Their income was derived exclusively from the gratuities offered by the visitors. After the revolt of 1857, their stipend was made somewhat fixed at rupees 64 per month for all 32 Khadims at Taj Mahal. Until 1878, the amount of pay and the number of Khadims were subjected to continuous change following a number of actions taken by the collector in connection to the code of conduct designed for the Khadims. 1978 was the year when the number of Khadims was set to 18, which remained same for many years since that time. However, in 1984, magistrate viewed that since the position of Khadim has been changed from the beginning, the hereditary principle could also be revoked. This view was contested by the commissioner who in 1900 held that the post of Khadims could only be succeeded by the sons of the male line. This position was further strengthened in 1902 when a definite pronouncement was put into force by the local government stating, quote, these old hereditary appointments should be raised in respectability and should not be absorbed, unquote. A further modification was made in 1915 elaborating the duties of a Khadim at the premises of the Taj. The duties included the job of being present at the tomb, marble tank, lower platform and main gate in order to guard the buildings of Taj Mahal from any disfigurement. Unlike the previous time, when their income was dependent on the gratuities earned from the visitors, the pronouncement of 1915 clearly disallowed them from asking for any remunerations from the visitors unless it was offered voluntarily. Hence, the Khadims could only guide the visitors on the ground that they would not solicit for money. The ASI, though, maintained the hereditary order in case of recruiting the Khadims, but it also held the power to appoint candidates from outside in case of the descendants of the Khadims didn't make suitable applicants for the post. This happened after partition. 4 posts of Khadims who migrated to Pakistan were not filled by the Khadims who chose to live in India, but same number of chaprasis was appointed at the Taj premises. Very evidently, the post of Khadims were treated as ritualistic. Hence, the usefulness of it emerged as a question of preoccupation. Thus, it is not surprising that post-partition India largely portrayed Khadims as people in uniforms burning timely agarbatti at the tombs inside the Taj. The restrictions gradually turned to be more stringent as more cases of complaints accusing the Khadims for pestering the visitors for money came into the notice of the authority in charge of the monuments. Consequently, they were gradually losing the power over the monument. First, their claim for remuneration from the travelers. Second, the status as narrator of the history of the Taj Mahal. With the intervention of the Archaeological Survey grew more rigid to specify the role of a guide, the autonomy and the power of a Khadim shrunk from the protector of the tombs. They were reduced to mere attendants of the graves. They were barred from telling the history of Taj Mahal, or in other words, acting as guides. Just like over 100 years, asking for remuneration from the visitors became importuning for money. Guiding by Khadims was also seen as an act of impersonation. Both were treated as offense. Hence, more frequent clashes began occurring between the guides and the Khadims. 1961 marked the year when the piled-up petty clashes turned into a collective grievance against the ASI. The hereditary claim of the Khadims over the monuments came with the assertion that they only know the true history of Taj Mahal. This authority of knowledge dates back to the time of Shah Jahan, when the sanctity of the post was declared and nobility of their family was established by the Mughal Emperor. With the negations of power the Khadims dealt with, the urgency for affirming their claims over Taj Mahal became imminent. In 1956, they claimed to have the possession of an ancient document, handwritten in Persian, said to provide a day-to-day account of the building of Taj Mahal. It could reveal the long-standing mystery who built the Taj. It was so treasured that the owner of it will not part with it while he is alive, and he was the last of his line. When asked, Khadim number 16, Bala Bunde confirmed the existence of the document, but confessed that his relatives took away all the materials related to Taj to Pakistan. And the newspaper Hitawara Nagpur reports, quote, a suspicious presence of Pakistani agent in Agra who was said to have managed to lay their hands on the valuable documents on the plea that future of the Islamic past is unsafe in India, unquote. Hence, there was a good chance that they were sending all the Persian and Urdu sources to Pakistan. Minister of Education asked ASI to inquire into the reported smuggling and remain vigilant about the records at the places in India, particularly where historical Muslim monuments are located. However, the inquiries that were made to find out failed to locate any such documents, as the Deputy Education Minister, Dr. M. Das, endorsed. In official narrative, watch and ward. These were two words the Khadims were left with in 1950s. An elaborate comment was issued by the ASI elucidating that Khadims were not allowed to act as gaddinashins, not responsible for offering in terms of money to the graves, and accept offerings made by other persons, except the offerings of flowers. Order issued by the superintendent in 1955 clearly termed the act of soliciting tips from visitors as a means of illegal gratification of monetary gains. The job of Khadims defined by the ASI in 1961 was to offer flowers and incenses at the tombs of in the morning and the afternoon. That also in the presence of the caretaker, so that the Khadims could restrain themselves from tricking the visitors into believing that donating money to the graves to be the norm of the space. In the words of Krishna Deva, the Director-General of the ASI, in November 1961, the Khadims placed flowers, coins, etc. on the graves with a view to attract visitors to make offerings Khadims, unquote. This pattern also followed by the lie that the money was meant for the maintenance of Taj Mahal. It was an archetypical explanation. The Khadims were infamous of giving in order to receive tips from the visitors. On 21st October 1961, two Khadims, Majid Beg and Rais Beg, were found misguiding the visitors with the same old statement while demanding and receiving tips from the tourist party. On being caught red-handed, they threatened the superintendent that he would ask all the Khadims to go for a protest against the enforcement of the rules. Quote, I'll make all them resign, you'll then see the results, unquote. This incident was immediately informed to the Director-General of the ASI DGA, as it was feared that the maintenance of discipline and rules would be in jeopardy under such terrorizing atmosphere. The word Khadim produced different meanings to different people. Whereas the ASI understood Khadims as government employees invested in the job to watch and ward, Khadims saw themselves as the guardians of the holy tombs of the Mughal emperors, with full responsibility to the souls of those buried therein, unquote. Similarly, in Khadim's narratives, offering money at the graves became homage and tips became nazrana. The visitors routinely paid homage to the graves of Emperor Shah Jahan, as he was admittedly described as Sahib Quran, and also often put cash or coins as nazrana on the tombs. This practice of offering money, according to them, was a mark of respect much prevalent in India, especially in the temples like Chढ़ावा. A petition was written to the Director-General of Archaeology in 1961, where the Khadims pointed out the rights they have historically lost. They demanded that there should be no objection in offering flowers or burning incenses at the graves. They should have the rights to accept the gratis by the visitors if offered voluntarily. Number of posts of Khadim that has gone to the chaprasis after partition should be restored. And Khadims, as a part of their duty, should be allowed to attend the visitors to explain the true history of Taj Mahal. Sorry. The response letter from the ASI negated all the possibilities of appointing Khadims against the post of the ex-Khadims who migrated to Pakistan after partition, as those posts has already been filled by class 4 employees of chaprasis. Dismissing the demand of receiving tips by the Khadims directly from the tourist, Mr. Rao, the archaeology superintendent of Agra, rather proposed a more stringent regulation on donating money. All, quote, all gifts may be in future be made through the caretaker of Taj Mahal, he commented, who will make entries in the register, unquote. Sorry. Maybe I started with shouting and now my throat hurts. Just a minute. Not only the amount will be distributed among all the class 4 employees of the Taj Mahal without any distinction, but also a limit will be fixed on the amount to be circulated. Furthermore, they were warned strictly to stick to their post of duty, not to act as guides. Krishna Deva, Deputy Director General of ASI, emphasized that there were already licensed guides and also a guide lecturer from the survey to attend the visitors. Allowing the Khadims to attend the visitors would affect their watch and ward duty. And also it would provide them ample chances to extort money from the visitors on the pretext of showing them round the monument. He even denied the idea of voluntarily gifted money on the ground that it would be very difficult to find out how actually the money was paid. Another strong reason provided by Mr. Deva was for outlawing the culture of accepting money from the tourist was that it would violate the code of conduct set by the Indian government after independence. He remarked, prior to 1947, the Khadims received a pay of rupees 6 per month. In that year, they were granted the pay scale and allowance of class 4 of the central government. They should therefore be governed by the same conduct rules as other government servants, unquote. In this context, it is important to point out that the culture of extorting money from the visitors by the Khadims using dishonest means was not new. So, I'll give an anecdote. The newspaper Rohilkhand Gazette of 1903 provided fleeting glimpses on the subject. On 1st August 1903, reported the incident of levying taxes from the visitors at the Mausoleum of Akbar. It was reported to be sanctioned by the commissioner. The tax was notoriously called the Murda tax. J.H. Marshall, the Director-General of the ASI of the time, informed the Commissioner about the incident and expressed that local religious body could be responsible for such unlawful practices, as Marshall worried, quote, Mia have been making a little on his own and carrying with the Commissioner's name, unquote. The gradual loss of the official holding let the Khadims claim the space in other way. In 1968, L.K. Srinivasan, the Superintendent of Northern Circle, Agra, advocated for a change in the pattern of guiding system. Earlier, the ASI licensed guides at Taj Mahal and Agra Fort used to work at one particular monument. Over time, it was observed that some guides who happened to be the relatives of the Khadims used to create splinter groups. This is the way Khadims helped the guides monopolize the guiding business and also created a combination of commercial canvassing at the marble shops at the surrounding areas of Tajganj. In 1966, the system of guiding at one single monument was dismissed and a system of rotation was introduced in order to handle the malpractices engineered by the Khadims. In 1960s was an eventful decade for the Khadims. More the spaces were crumbled, more the Khadims came up with alternative means to maintain their claim of Taj Mahal. The abundance of notices and orders from the government marked the play between power and paranoia. The power that enabled the ASI to ensure the fall of a historic post of the Khadims from the guardians of the tomb to the attendants of the graves, and the paranoia that made ASI struggle with the fear of collective resistance. The paranoia is reflected in the manner of secrecy in which the ASI gradually curtailed the access to their rights, so far exercised by the Khadims. In 1961, the DGA issued an order that remained at the office of the caretaker, rather being circulated amongst the Khadims. The caretaker was perhaps instructed to not endorse the new regulation, as he was individually targeting the Khadims so as to implement them. When the Director-General refused to reinstate the rights the Khadims claimed for, they wrote a petition to Humayun Kabir, the Union Minister of that time. The Union Ministry also refrained from responding to their grievances. The silent ministry, the absent order, and its mute implementation together crafted the gradual decline of the post of Khadims with greater certainty and less chaos. The gradual degradation of the post of Khadims leaves us wondering about the dissonance between two sets of times, the secular and the religious. The secular time through which the state was operating the institution of guiding, and the religious time marked by the sole duty of Khadim, that was to offer worships at the tombs twice a day. Indeed, the Khadims stood anachronistic in the working of the secular time. Hence, their intrusion into the realm of the secular made them increasingly anomalous in the eyes of the modern institutions such as the ASI. Additionally, with the domain of custom shrunk and law expanded, the state increased the surveillance on its properties, as a result of which Khadims lost their historical claims over the monument. If the ASI saw the act of deploying two caretakers to watch over the Khadims as a measure to prevent them from unauthorized activities, Khadim saw it as an undue intervention into their religious performances. The story of the Khadims alludes to the larger structural changes that were happening in the departments and the ministries after the independence in 1947. The attempt of licensing and systematizing the profession of guiding endangered the living of those who practiced guiding as a traditional livelihood. Furthermore, from 1960 onwards, matters became more and more precarious for the guides, as their cultural memories of the monuments were frequently threatened by the bureaucratic operation of the state. Consequently, 1960s and 70s saw a range of cases of complaints and resistance advanced by the hereditary guides. These complaints, conflicts, litigations, accounts of solidarities, and tragic failures illustrate both precarity and resilience that came to characterize the lives of guides in post-colonial India. The post-colonial state had sought to professionalize the vocation of tour guiding, but these routine attempts by state to contain social dynamic at the archaeological sites, which often met with resolute opposition by the traditional and the licensed guides who formed the inseparable parts of the quotidian social life of the monuments. The rules and regulations which were expected to govern the guides and their activities were left vague in 1950s, and they continued to be loose even in the 1970s. Even when the climate of politics radically changed in 70s, their life around the monuments remained pretty much same. Only the protest adopted newer forms of expressions. Thank you.